Hey everybody, welcome to the first Frost online card class. I am so giddy about these cards. I can't even tell you. They're so beautiful, and I think you guys are going to love them too. I hope you will anyway. And I've got lots of fantastic ideas in your instruction sheet. We've got a couple of fun techniques. There's a really cute fun fold card. So there's lots going on in this class. So get ready. Our first card that we're going to start out with is kind of a neat technique. This features some watercoloring spritzing, and it looks a little complicated, but it's actually super easy. So let me show you how to do it. Okay, first of all, I'm going to all the directions are in your PDF sheet, as well as the dimensions for all the papers that I'm using, the colors and all of that good stuff. So make sure you refer to that. We're going to start by using a spritzer, one of the Stampin' Spritzers. I have water in this one, as you can see. Sometimes I have rubbing alcohol in them. Not alcohol. Yeah, I just spritz those into my mouth. No, I'm kidding. I have water in this one, but sometimes I use rubbing alcohol because it can dry quicker on cardstock, which is sometimes quite nice. In this case, though, we're going to use just regular water, and I've got watercolor paper. Now, that is really important in this technique. If you have white cardstock, it will not do the same thing. So I'm going to start by just giving this a little spritz of water. A few spritzes, as you can see, and then I'm just kind of spreading that water around. Okay, this will give me plenty of water to last for the card. So I want to use my Blackberry Bliss, Night of Navy, Mint Macaron, and then I'll even slip a little bit of gray granite in there. So I have kind of a cool color combination. We'll start with the Mint Macaron, and then we're going to use that long kind of leafy image. I apologize that I don't have a better description of some of these. You know, the branchy, the leafy, that's kind of what I'm going to call them. Okay, so I'm going to start by stamping that kind of at an angle, and look at how the water just spreads that image out. A tip for you is when we're going to stamp it again to just kind of get rid of that excess water off your stamp before inking it back up. It won't hurt your ink pad per se, but it just helps. So I stamped it once more so that I've kind of got the angle corner, almost corner to corner covered. All right, next I'm going to take and use the, let's see, smaller flower and my Blackberry Bliss. Now here's where things can go a little crazy, just so you know. They're gonna spread out. So I'm gonna put one right there. And oops, I did not take my own advice, which was to get rid of that extra water, and one right there. And then I'll just kind of let that go. Now, depending on how much water you have here, they're going to spread out more or less. On my sample, you can see it did spread out quite a bit. But I've been chatting. You know how that goes. Oh, I also need a little mossy meadow. Okay. Now for this next one, we're going to take this flower stem. We're going to ink up the flower part in Old Olive, and then the stem part in Mossy Meadow. And I'm just doing it like that. And then I'm going to do a little more spritzing of water because I have been talking for a long time. So we'll put, oops, I'm spritzing off of my page here a little. We'll spritz a little there and a little there. Now, because this is brand new water, you can see it's really spreading out, and that's fine. Again, we'll stamp off that excess right here, and then we'll ink it up once more. So I've got Night of Navy there, and the stem is Mossy Meadow. So I'll give that a stamp up here, and look at all that spreading out. Now, what I want to do at this point is give it a little drying. I know, we got it wet, now we want it dry. And the cool part about this technique, you can see it's really spreading out. By the way, if you don't want to push the water too much, like you can kind of see that was happening here, just lift your heat tool further away. Now, I like this, but I also am seeing that I had a lot of water when I added that extra spritz. So if I wanted to, I could take a paper towel I have and dab off some of that excess just to kind of speed the process up. And then I can actually go over this once more. Again, we're going to get rid of that extra ink. I'm going to put just a little bit of Night of Navy back on here, and that will allow me to get a little more definition of that stamp image. Okay, I'll do that again over here. It's still going to spread a little, but now I have a little more defined image. So that's kind of a cool thing. I can do that same thing with my flower too, like that, just so that it's nice and pretty. Okay, the next thing that I want to do, then you see I got a little bit of that on there, so I'm going to spritz it. You can kind of go back and forth a little bit on this one. Now you can't see that I had that ring on there, so yay. Okay, next what I'm going to do is let that dry completely. And I've got a little watercolor piece, and I want to stamp my gray granite sentiment. Now this is right out of our stamp set. It says, "Here's to a season filled with warmth, comfort, and good cheer." So I'm going to ink that up and just stamp it down onto my label. Now this is the smaller of the two labels. I'll just hold that there for a second so we get a good impression. And there we go. We'll set that aside for a minute. The next thing, I'm going to leave this open because I'm going to need it here in a second. The next thing we're going to do is, while this is all drying, we're going to prepare our background with a little bit of mint macaron ink. And the fun thing about this is every single time that I've done this technique, I've gotten a little different result. My cards look a little bit different. I actually did this for a card swap that I participated in, and each one of them was a little bit different, which was kind of fun. Okay, so next I'm going to take this, and we've got this beautiful kind of branchy image, and I'm going to stamp that in the corners here, like so. And then the corner down here, like so. I want to be able to see it because we're going to cover up most of this with our layer of cardstock, like so. There we go. All right, and then I'm also going to take this image. Let me clean it quickly because I also want to stamp it in gray granite on my watercolor panel. We're kind of waiting for things to dry before we stamp that because, as you could see, we had kind of a lot of ink happening on there. So I'm just going to take this, and I'm actually going to stamp off a layer of ink, and then I'll stamp one up here and stamp off, flip this around, and one in the bottom corner as well. Okay, that looks pretty good. Again, I kind of got a lot of water going on here, so I'm just going to dab that off a little bit, kind of help the drying process along. There we go. Now I'm going to adhere my layers together. Now, when I'm adhering something I've watercolored, I really want this to be good and dry. So we're going to take that heat tool once more, have at it. I'm also going to heat the back side. Sometimes that helps flatten things out a little bit. And then I'm going to put a lot of adhesive on here. If you're doing liquid glue, just do a little bit more than usual. Not so much volume-wise, but just cover more area. All right, because we don't want this to be sticking up all over. We'll place that on our Night of Navy cardstock panel, and then we'll go right onto our card itself. Now, I think this could be a great Christmas card that's kind of non-traditional. There's a lot of non-traditional colors at Christmas time sometimes, which I just love. Now, on my sample, I'll show you this. I did a little spritzing on here, but I think I got a little aggressive on this, and it made it almost hard to read. So I will take and do spritzing again with my gray granite marker, but I'm going to leave my sentiment off. So we'll just do that There's one and there's two. And very pretty. I like the look of all of that. We'll pop this layer right up, and that's all there is to this card. It's really pretty simple, but kind of a fun technique. You can really play around with how much water and how much spreading you get with these images. It's a lot of fun to play with that technique in lots of different backgrounds. So I encourage you to play around with it a bit and enjoy the effects that you get with that.